this?
Good.
Now, what they told me that you have different academies out there, and like I had the last three girls, and one was in the STEM Academy, and one was in the Government and Public Affairs Academy, and one was in a science or something, something different.
I'm in BLPA, which is the business law.
I am too.
Oh, okay, so you're both in the business and law public affairs.
Sorry.
Okay. All right, go right ahead.
Okay. So our first question is that do you think that the current budget that the U.S. has, do you think it accurately reflects the wants or the desires of the people?
Well, it certainly reflects the wants of a lot of people because it's spending way too much money. It's spending a lot of money that we don't have. We're still operating with huge deficits of hundreds of billions, several hundred billions each year, and that's unfortunate because our national debt has now reached over $18 trillion, and I'm convinced that the only reason people aren't really upset about that is that nobody can humanly comprehend a figure like $1 trillion, and certainly can't comprehend more than $18 trillion. I can't comprehend it. Nobody can. It's so huge, and Admiral Mike Mullen, who was chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff up till a couple of years ago, he said in several speeches around the country and hearings before Senate and House committees that the greatest threat to our national security was our national debt. And families get in trouble if they go too deeply into debt, and countries get in trouble if they go into too deeply into debt. And I think that we're in trouble because of that huge debt.
And as far as like us being in trouble, do you think like money that we owe, like intergovernmental like debt that we owe to different like organizations within our country, or international debt that we borrow from other countries, which do you think is more troublesome or more dangerous to our economy or our country as a whole?
Well, I think both of them are possible troubles. For instance, some of our debt is owed to the Social Security Trust Fund, and as many candidates have pointed out, that trust fund is not. It's just filled with a bunch of government IOUs, a bunch of debt, and what it means is that in just a few years we're not going to be able to pay everybody's Social Security, and the only way out of it, you either can inflate the money, or you can have big tax increases, and neither one of those are good solutions, because most governments all around the world, and what we have done in this country, we have basically gone the inflation route. And if you do that, I mean, first year you do it, maybe your money's only worth, maybe you only have a 5% hit, but the more you inflate the money, it's like a ball rolling downhill. It gathers up speed, and it's I mean, Germany in the 1920s was the most educated country in the world at that time. Had a lot of really intelligent, really smart people. Yet they had the worst inflation just about in the history of the world. Prices going up thousands of percent in just a week or two. Prices in the grocery stores having to be raised every 2 or 3 hours. It's just crazy what you can get into. And so, and then to have too much debt to other countries, that makes you vulnerable. The biggest creditor we have is China, and so that means that we can't be as tough with China in our negotiations as we should be. So we have huge trade deficits with China, and we shouldn't have that. It's bad for our working people to have huge trade deficits. We've sent millions of good jobs to other countries over the last 40 or 50 years, mainly due to environmental rules and regulations. We've gone too far. If you go too far in one direction on anything, it's bad. And so we've gone too far in that direction. Hurt a lot of our working people.
Okay, one of the questions I had, which I think you kind of hinted at, but I want to make sure we're on the same page, is what do you think the number one reason like that we are sending out so much money than what we're taking in? So would you say that probably correlates to the fact that we're sending like a lot of jobs away also?
Yes, we've sent millions of jobs to other countries. It used to be that every small town in the country had 2 or 3 factories. Slowly, over many years, practically all those factories have closed down, and now in a lot of small towns and rural areas, the only opportunities the kids have are to work at fast food restaurants or go into the military. We've ended up with the best educated waiters and waitresses in the world. We have several million people who are working at jobs far below their skills and talents and abilities. A lot of people with degrees can't find jobs in fields that they've gotten degrees in, and we have many non-college graduates who have great skills and talents and abilities, but now we've got this, of course, hardly anybody eats at home anymore, so that's why we've ended up with all these restaurants and stuff, but still you hate to think this. I had a young man who 5 or 6 years ago came to see me who had a PhD from Vanderbilt. He was a cook at the Calhouns on the river. So it's a problem. It's a problem not only because of jobs, but it's a problem on other things too. If a family can afford a $100,000 house, but they go out here and buy a $500,000 house where they're having to spend so much money to service that debt or pay their monthly payments, then they don't have money left to fix things when it gets broken, or they don't have money to expand the house if they want to expand it, or take care of it like they should. The same things happen in this country. If we had not gone so deeply into debt, we could have a lot stronger country economically than we do. But the reason it's happened is the easiest thing in the world is to spend other people's money. And you have too many people in politics who are unwilling to say no to anybody. And especially, almost the government agencies try to tie almost everything that they do into helping children or old people or sick people. They try to tie it all into that practically. And so, so then if you don't support every kind of spending that's out there, then you're not. Somebody will come in and say, well, you're not for the old people, or you're not for the young people, or you're not for the handicapped people. And I've got great sympathy for people, but I don't want to destroy the country in the process.
Mm-hmm. We also interviewed an economic professor at UT who does a lot of research. His name is Dr. Fox, and what he kind of explained to us and opened a whole new way for me to look at that is the debt meaning. Is that it's not as much a technical problem. There are ways we could start paying back the debt and lessen our budget, but it's more of a political problem because it can be agreed upon what needs to be changed or what needs to be lessened. Would you agree with that, or how do you think it might even affect your position or something, depending? Because it almost could influence the politicians in a way because there's a solution, but for example he gave us was that politician can say we could fix this by cutting Social Security costs. But then next thing you know, this politician's not reelected. He offers solutions, but not solutions that the people want. But they want it to be fixed, but they don't want to go through the process fixing it.
Well, he's right. It's a political problem that becomes an economic problem, so it's both. And he's exactly right in that anybody who is going to do the right thing on these things is going to look less than sympathetic to people, or not as caring. And so the easy thing to do and the most politically popular thing to do is just to give everybody everything that they want. But you can't do that. It's just like parents with a child. No parent who gives a child everything that child has ever asked for or ever wants and is harming that child. And you have to. A child has to have somebody who loves that child enough to say no to him occasionally. And that's exactly the same situation we're in the country. I hope that someday each of you has children, but you would be harming that child if you never said no to that child. In the same way, the politicians have harmed the country by not saying no enough and just saying no to anybody who asks it. We'll give you all kinds of money. And like I said, the easiest thing in the world is to spend other people's money. It's too easy.
Yeah, that was spot on. That was exactly kind of the way you explained it. So I'm not keeping track of time. Do you know?
We have
Phil
five.
and
Go
Liz?
ahead and ask me
Okay.
anything you want to ask
We
me.
have 5 minutes left.
You're the last one of these I'm doing today, so you can. I've got another appointment at 2 o'clock. Is the only thing, but you're fine.
Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
I had to move those others this morning kind of fast because they were
One after
scheduled one after another, 15 minutes at a time, so we had to keep moving.
So is there a specific place that you personally feel that our budget dedicates too much money or not enough?
Yes, well, there are many places, but we should reduce spending in every area so that we spread the pain out, and that would be the most fair way to do it. But where I would start, we've spent by very conservative estimates $2 or $3 trillion on wars in the Middle East. When you add in all the military spending plus all the health care spending that it's required from people who've been maimed or seriously injured, or benefits that we had to pay the widows of soldiers who have been killed and so forth. So I hope that at some point, we don't seem to have learned it yet, but I hope that at some point we finally learn the lesson that we can't run the whole Middle East. We could give, since we're so deeply in debt, I think we're very limited in what we can do with even humanitarian assistance, but I can see that we can give some humanitarian assistance, but beyond that, I think we need to stop spending so much money on wars in the Middle East.
And is there I guess I'd probably guess to answer this question, but do you think there's any place that not enough money is dedicated to?
Well, I know that every department and agency, every person who works for any kind of government agency always wants more money. But of course, another problem we're getting into is the government keeps buying more and more land because every politician wants to create a park, it seems like. And we've created so many parks that most of them aren't even used very much. There's a few exceptions, but most of these parks are greatly underused and will be unless we figure out a way for everybody in the country to go on permanent vacations. But the problem is that when government keeps taking more land off the tax rolls, at the same time the teachers and the policemen and the firemen are wanting more money, and other government workers, they're decreasing the tax base. At the same time, all these people who work for government want more money. So those are leading to what will be very serious problems in the future if we don't stop taking over so much land at the federal, state, and local levels. But
Makes sense.
anyway.
So we've had different answers, but given most of the people, the only person we've asked so far has been very factual, he's a research professor. So I guess you might have a different outlook on this since your job influences it directly, but I have a very basic level of the process in which the budget is actually created, but from my understanding it's Congress that kind of puts it together and the president just kind of agrees or vetoes. And so I was wondering if you personally think that this is the most efficient or effective way to create the budget, and if it's the best way we can create it to represent people.
Well, I'll say two things. First of all, because there are not the pressures and incentives to spend money wisely in government, that there are in the private sector. For instance, if a government agency wastes money, they just seem to get more money the next year. A private business of any kind that wastes money, they're going to go out of business if they don't figure out a way to stop wasting money. They're going to very quickly go out of business. So that's one thing to keep in mind. So that every dollar you can keep in the private sector will do more to create jobs and keep prices low. So the least economical, least efficient way you can spend money is to turn it over to the government, especially the federal government, because the local government is more efficient because it's closer to the people. The people don't allow them to waste as much money as the federal government does. But the most efficient way to spend money, to spend government money, would be if we had, if we had some kind of dictator who then, but we don't want that. So what we have to hope for is that we, at some point, will get more people into elective office who are fiscally conservative, so that they don't destroy your all's futures and the futures of my grandchildren.
Any other questions you think we can ask?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Awesome.
Well, thank you.